So I'd like to follow up on the talk that was done earlier by Howard from TIP on some real-life open Wi-Fi deployments, some of the use cases that we've seen and some of the lessons learned. And, I'll preface this by saying, of course, that open Wi-Fi is pretty new. We don't have tens of thousands of deployments or access points out there yet. You've got to kind of crawl, walk, run, yeah? So we are part of the TIP Open Wi-Fi organization. I won't go through this. I think everybody's got the message here. It's a disaggregated idea, so the software is separated from the hardware. And there are multiple hardware vendors that participate in this. Some of the access points, this is kind of just an example of some of the access points that have been deployed or are in the process of being sampled. You can see some are coming on. There's some old Wi-Fi 5 stuff. There's quite a lot of Wi-Fi 6, indoor and outdoor. And Wi-Fi 6E is supposedly sampling this quarter. We're waiting for those samples from CRG Action Tech. So what we noticed when we first started pitching this sort of open Wi-Fi concept is, who was going to adopt it? Where was it going to start? We're probably not going to be going into the large enterprise market, for example, from day one. That would be unrealistic. So we found there were really three vertical markets that kind of started to adopt open Wi-Fi. Public Wi-Fi hotspots, sort of indoor and outdoor mixed. We found this was very popular in developing countries with less than ideal 4G, 5G coverage, for example. Another market that came up fairly quickly was education, colleges, universities, and last but not least, hospitality. We found those kind of opportunities worldwide, not including US and Europe, but worldwide. And then more recently, a lot of interest in MDUs. We've seen a lot of potential use in MDUs and a lot of conversations that we're having with people about MDUs and SMBs. I've got three examples I'll just quickly talk about. Again, they're not going to be super impressive in terms of the number of APs, but if you could just put that at one side for a second and just think about what problem was. Why did people choose open Wi-Fi? So we did a deployment at Kenyatta University in Kenya. Why did they go this way? Well, it was kind of an interesting use case. Because of the COVID situation in Africa at the time, they really restricted any use of the indoor classrooms, and they really needed to deploy everything for outdoor classrooms. So they wanted to deploy outdoor Wi-Fi access across the campus, plus some indoor. And of course, in Africa, as you can imagine, the budgets are pretty constrained. So they went with open Wi-Fi. They selected two different vendors of access points. They selected HFCL, which is out of India, and Action Tech, CIG Action Tech, which is Chinese. It was interesting because we hadn't really thought about this at the time, but Action Tech had delays delivering the APs. I mean, this supply chain issue is clearly real. But what we've noticed is it doesn't seem to affect everybody equally. I don't know why, but some people seem to have, we can deliver, and other people would know we've got 4 or 5 month lead times. So luckily, the HFCL had no problems. They were able to deliver very quickly and shipped, and then subsequently, Action Tech did ship theirs. Their initial deployment was 200 APs for a portion of the campus. So those are up, but it's a kind of greenfield thing. They got to dig the holes for the fiber and the cables and put the switches in. You put the concrete footings in with the poles. The whole 9 yards. So it's not replacing something that existed. Another example is a French company, a hospitality service provider. You're going to see that recurring theme of very tight margins or tight budgets. They deliver to kind of budget hotels. So pretty low end, and they had some issues getting deliveries from their existing vendor. So they selected EdgeCore out of Taiwan and Action Tech again. And they're also looking at a new vendor that's coming on called Arcadian, also based out of Taiwan. Their initial deployment was 50 APs in a hotel in Paris, and obviously that was the initial. They are expanding now. The third one I'll just mention is a kind of a larger scale Wi-Fi service provider in the US. If you attended Howard's thing, he did have them on this big slide. There are about 30 or 40 sort of trials going on around the world. This is one of them. They had some supply issues, high cost again, very interested in the disaggregated model in general, and also wanted full support for the WBA open roaming. So they selected Open Wi-Fi. They went with EdgeCore and Action Tech again, 4x4 Wi-Fi 6 indoor APs. They required a feature that didn't exist at the time. With the sort of cooperation with the TIP community and our own engineers, that was developed and delivered and QA'd in about 3 weeks. So it was really a fast turnaround for them. Initial trial is in deployment, early stage, it's about 85 APs. But again, it's part of a process that we obviously expect turns into thousands. So some of the lessons learned. The first thing that we found out is, of course, support. We have to be the de facto support for the entire solution. And the reason for this is it's pretty obvious that 99% of the issues that are brought up tend to be software related issues as opposed to hardware related issues. It's not impossible that you get a hardware related issue, but it's rare compared to software issues. The other thing that we found is, of course, pricing has to be very aggressive to significantly grow the market for Wi-Fi. Again, we're not necessarily just trying to take a little slice of a pie that exists. What we're trying to do here is grow the pie and hit some of these markets that hitherto have not had internet access at all in some cases. And then the third thing, and last but not least, is the TIP community is a fabulous community. It's invaluable in providing the resources to support these customers and to support us, to be honest. It's the open source repository. They have great technical knowledge filled with folks like you. They are good at prioritizing features and coming up with new ideas, which accelerates the innovation because it's a bigger community. So with that, I think I wrap it up. Thanks very much.